Welcome back to the Ministry Downunder Webcast. Today we've got a guest back that we just saw just the other day.
Yeah.
So we've got Grant Northsworthy from More Than Music Mentor. You might also know him from Paul Commentrio if you're a bit older like us. Hi, how you doing, Grant?
Great, Chris. Hey, Karen, how you doing? It's good to see you guys again. It feels like it was just yesterday we were talking like this.
It was fantastic seeing you meeting you for the first time. Not in person, but online, Grant. But yeah, this is fantastic. And we're so thrilled to have you on again.
Great to see you guys as well. And thank you for anyone who's listening to this, or watching and listening. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so I guess one of your main focuses is your More Than Music Mentor ministry. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or a lot about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm aware that a lot of the people who listen to this are perhaps pastors in churches, not all of them, but I'd like to think that I've developed something that could be really helpful to pastors. And I love the Christian church. I've been a follower of Jesus for most of my life, and I've had some experience in the whole realm of music. Been involved in music in the church for a lot of years, and for the last 12 years, I've been doing a thing that's providing online and on-site training for the heart and the art of worshiping musicians. So a lot of pastors, and it's probably quite different right now under the COVID-19 lockdowns and everything like that, but we know that for 2,000 years, followers of Jesus, when we've gathered together, we've sung songs together, we've had music involved. Mm-hmm. And that continues to this day. It's been through some changes, and there's been some struggles and some growing pains and all that. But yeah, I just love to try and help pastors connect the dots for their teams of musicians. You know, usually it's volunteers, right? Some bigger churches have people on staff who are involved in the music, especially over the United States, where I've lived for a lot of years. But in Australia, it's usually a volunteer that's leading a team of other volunteers, singers, instrumentalists, and technicians. And so, yeah, there's this training curriculum that I've developed that I share as much of it as I can online, but I love coming to churches and doing workshops to work in the same room with the people, get to know them and find out what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are. And yeah, just help them know better what we're trying to do with this music stuff, because it can be beautifully powerful as a means to express the worth of God or to worship God through these songs, or it can be a bit of a minefield. And I'm just trying to do all I can to help with that. And that's why I've got More Than Music Mentor, or as you can find online, morethanmusicmentor.com.
So like, how did you transition into this originally? So is it something you were doing on the side a little bit, or?
Well, I mean, I've been involved in church music all my life. In fact, Chris, that's when you and I met many years ago at a Baptist church on the eastern suburbs of Melbourne called, at the time, Stuckey North Baptist Church, now called New Hope. And you were playing brass, right? And I was...
Yeah, actually,
I
was actually transitioning from drums to brass.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's probably a promotion. No,
I became a musician.
Now let's not go down that path. Drummers, I love drummers. But so in fact, I was involved in trying to introduce the first contemporary style band to Blackburn North Baptist Church. And we as young people at the time, we were teenagers.
Yep.
And we tried to form a little band and introduce it for the youth service, a Sunday evening that we had one month. And I don't know about you, Chris, but I'd been to some other churches and I'd been to some big youth events and heard a style of music that was different to the hymns and to the choir and to the orchestra that we'd been used to in churches. It was much more lively. It sort of resonated with us. And so I tried to drag some of those songs I'd heard into Stuckey North Baptist. And I had no idea it would cause such a ruckus, like it was the youth service. And we formed this little band and we were all, terribly inexperienced.
Yeah.
And I remember we tried to force the sound of this band, drums, bass, electric guitar. I don't know how many singers, 37? No, I don't know. We had a bunch of singers. We even had a brass line.
Yep.
And we tried to make this band sound good through a pair of Bose 802
Yeah.
speakers.
That was
Now, for those who don't know what that is, that's a couple of decent quality speakers that are designed specifically for the pastor's voice only.
Oh,
You know?
oh no.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so it must have sounded terrible.
Oh,
It
yeah.
must have. There were a lot of complaints. Not only were we perhaps playing not well and singing not well, we were doing the best we could, but a lot of people struggled with it. And I remember one lady came to me after one of those services, and she was hurt, and she said, and she didn't mean it mean, I don't think she meant it unlovingly, but she said, Grant, that was not worshipful. And as a 19-year-old kid, I had no idea what to do with that statement. Now, today, some considerable number of years later, I realized that probably what she meant was it hurt my ears, or it didn't sound good, or I didn't like those songs, or I didn't know how to sing my prayers to God. I didn't know how to praise God through that. And I guess I just sort of realized that there's a lot of musical, technical, practical reasons why a congregation might struggle to connect. It could be not familiar with the song. It might be bad sound. It might be bad singing, bad playing. It might be the wrong song choice. There's a lot of reasons. And I've come to this point, while I believe that singing songs is a wonderful and potentially powerful means of worshiping God or showing the worth of God, God actually asks us to surrender our whole lives to him. Romans 12:1 tells us to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, and let that be your spiritual, reasonable, intelligent act of worship. And so for us in the church, where we so often hear things like worship band, worship song, worship service, worship experience, worship artist, these uses of the word worship that make us think that the worship of God only happens through the songs or only happens in a particular place when particular things are happening. I'd like to think that, okay, my whole life surrendered to God is the worship that God requires. Music fits into that, and music is important as one of the ways we worship him, but that lady who said it wasn't worshipful, that was just a poor use of the word worship, in my opinion. We have to leave it to God to measure how worshipful worship is, He's the only entity that gets to decide what's truly worshipful. Now, I get a sense of whether the people, and in myself included, are connecting with some sincerity with God through these songs. I get some sense of that, but ultimately I don't get to measure that, No one does. No human gets to measure that. So that's kind of freed me up to, point to this big Romans 12:1 life response of worship. And then within that think, all right, how does music in the life of the body of believers, the Christians, the people who are gathering in church buildings, how does that fit into that? And that's just been a totally freeing thing for me. It's been like a bag of rocks falling off my shoulders, where it's like when I've got a guitar and a microphone, it's not my job to make people worship God or encounter God or, or make the Holy Spirit show up, quote unquote. It's my job to present songs that help them sing with some passion and praise, to find their own voice as they pray to God, as they sing praises to God, as they declare truth about God together. That's my job.
Yeah,
that's been freeing.
I was going to say, that's one of the things I found back when we were doing summer missions or beach missions and things like that. We get sent off to different churches every year, and just sitting in a different style of like worship or music every year just gave you a real taste of what's really out there in the different churches, like from very conservative churches right through to very modern and young churches, older churches. Yeah, so it's a real mix,
and that's where I've come to, like I'm old enough to remember how well Blackie North Baptist would sing those old hymns.
Yeah.
And I didn't always connect with the style of the music at the time, but I've grown in my appreciation of it and grown in my celebration of the diversity of music in the church.
That's it.
It's great to sing and play songs that you think are cool, to a crowd, and I've done quite a bit of that over my years. But what's better than that is to find the right song that helps whoever I'm in front of connect more deeply with God.
No,
You know, that's the joy for me. Looking out at the crowd, or you know, and I usually do this beforehand. All right, what sort of people are going to be there? What songs are going to connect? Is it going to be Still My Soul, or is it going to be Build My Life? Is it going to be Reckless Love, or is it going to be Be Thou My Vision? Is it going to be Soon and Very Soon, or is it going to be Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah? And that is what I call the higher joy of music for me as a musician. You know, finding the songs that help this group of people, whoever they are, with their different ages and different style preferences and different joys and different sorrows and different life experiences. How do I help them connect more deeply with God through songs?
No,
that's the fun of it.
Where would you start with that? Like, just say you were in charge of the music for your church. Where do you start to work out what music connects with your audience?
Yeah, and we've got to be careful here, because I know what you mean when you say your audience. But,
Sorry, your congregation.
They're not my audience.
Yeah, I know.
That's probably the great starting point. Just going, even though they've made me stand on a wood platform that's higher than the congregation. And sometimes people even call it a stage. Even though we've maybe got more light on us and we've got microphones and they've got comfortable seats. Even though I'm sort of in charge because I've got the instrument and the microphone. This is not a gig.
Come on. That's it.
Me saying, all right, check this out, you know, or even how do I hide and let them think that I know what I'm doing here? You know, it's actually my job to say, hey, here we are. This is the best we've got right now. Let's join a band together. You know, whether we're 15 people or 40 people or 10,000 people, let's be a band together and recognize God is the audience for these songs. You know?
That's right.
And that takes so much pressure off. It should take pressure off. But we've got to start with that. It's not my job to perform for this group. It's my job to help them recognize God more clearly as we sing these songs together. And, you know, for me, it starts with, all right, how old are they? What's the denomination? What are they used to? You know, so what songs have been connecting well? That can be a couple of questions, usually to the senior pastor. You know, and often senior pastors have got a vision for where they want to be, and they've got a pretty good understanding of where they are now. And rarely are the two the same, by the way. So any pastor listening to this, you know, the music you've got right now is the music you've got right now, and the level of engagement of your congregation is what you've got right now. And I wouldn't mind betting most of us we want it to be better. We want people to be singing better, more passionately, with more heartfelt sincerity. We want people to be more excited. You know, we don't want the music to be just elevator music while people stagger in from the car park, you know. We want people to be like, here we go, you know. So it's asking a lot of questions and doing a lot of listening. And I guess after many years of doing this, I've just got pretty good at looking out at a group of people or having a couple of conversations before I arrive. I do a lot of travel with this, and choosing songs that fit, you know. Like I say, it's become very little to do with whether I actually like the song or not. Certainly I want good melody and I want good solid lyrics that I line up with the truth of scripture. But I don't actually have to like the song, because like I said before, the higher joy for me is, are people going to connect with it? Are they going to recognize God through this song?
So how do you how do you get a team to understand how to get this point of view about how we're here to worship God? You know, we're here to connect the people with God. That's our aim. So how do you get the team, if you came along to our church and spoke to a team, how do you get them to understand?
Yes, usually there's a whip involved, firing of people. No, none of that. And I'd like to think that there's no one size fits all. You've got to, you know, to come in as a guest and try and align this in one weekend can be a tough ask, but I've come up with some things that I think help. A lot of times it comes just with a word picture I would paint, and I'll try it on you guys, all right, if that's okay.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I'm not a huge soccer fan, but I do love watching a bit of World Cup soccer when that comes around. And I hardly understand the rules of the game, you know, but one of the things I love about watching World Cup soccer is the display of unity. There's this strength and display of unity. All the players on the pitch, all the coaches and other players on the sideline, all the support staff, all the crowd in the stands, and they can cross via satellite to another 100,000 people at the Champs-Elysees or whatever.
Yeah.
All these people are totally unified.
Yeah.
Right? There's this singularity of purpose.
Yep.
And people are passionate. The people in the crowds, by the way, sing better than any church I've ever heard.
True.
Or at least maybe the beer's helping, I don't know, but they're all super passionate. They wear their colours, they paint their faces, and they will sing their songs, and there's no one leading them. There's no one putting the lyrics on a screen. No one's choosing the repertoire. They sing, and I think the singing is this overflow of the passion that comes from having a measurable, agreed goal.
Yep.
And you could argue that the goal is to win the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sure, it is on a certain level, but that is not what makes the people sing. That is not what makes the people cheer.
Yep.
They want a little synthetic spherical ball to go in the back of a net
True.
more often than the other team.
Yep.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And they know that if they do that better than every other team consistently, the World Cup looks after itself.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right?
that's true.
So I would say to a team of singers, instrumentalists, and technicians, no matter what their denomination, no matter what their age, no matter what their style of music that they prefer, I would say, let's let the worship of God be like the World Cup.
Yeah.
Or the language might be, let's let people experiencing the presence of God, or there's different language, right? But that big World Cup thing, yes, let's all agree we want that. So in the broadest terms, I think you're Presbyterian, you're Baptist, you're Pentecostal, you're Lutheran, you're Catholic, they all want the worth of God to be shown through these songs, right? We want people to worship God through these songs. Okay, that's the World Cup. Let's set that aside. What is our ball in the back of the net? And usually people are stumped.
Yeah, you go.
They don't know. And this is why I often find myself coaching teams where there's a great deal of confusion. And it's hard for me to read it instantly, but I've backed myself. I've got it pretty good now. You know, you might have a drummer who's in the band because he loves playing drums.
Yeah.
You got someone pushing advance on the lyric projections because they didn't know how to say no. You got a girl on the platform who's singing because she loves singing, and she loves that sense of God's love for her that she gets when she's singing.
Yes.
Got someone else up there who's in another band who really wants to try out his electric guitar pedals and practice his chops, right?
Yeah.
You got someone else, a musical director perhaps, who just wants these songs played correctly for once. You know, no mistake, please. There's all these different agendas. There's all these different goals. The pastor just wants people to listen to the sermon.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like there's all these different agendas, and the congregation is confused.
Yeah.
Is this some sort of concert? Am I supposed to be participating? Are we supposed to just like applaud? I don't know what to do. And it's a confusion to a level that I think most of us are unaware of. So
true.
the clarity needs to come when we have an agreed, humanly measurable goal. And what I've arrived at is we want our congregation to sing. Sing truth about God. Sing sincere, theologically sound prayers to God and praises of God. That's what we want. We want the congregation to sing. And then I've got to get all the team to agree with that. Right?
Yeah.
Let's let the World Cup look after itself.
Yep.
We want the World Cup. Let that look after itself. Our big why, we have music. why we have instruments, why we have microphones, why we have projections, why all the big why is so that our congregation will sing.
Yeah.
Then if we get agreement from everybody on that, then I can say, okay, now let's think about what songs we're going to choose. Because it shouldn't be because this is this cool new one that I really, really like.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's got this great guitar riff in it.
Yeah.
That's like, well, let's keep that in mind, but that's not a good enough reason to let a song be added to our repertoire. And nor should it be, well, I sang this when I was 14 and it's made me feel so wonderful back then. So we're going to do it now.
Yeah.
Right. So then I guess what I'm trying to say is once you have agreement on the why, the what and the how gets so much easier.
Yeah, yeah.
What songs are we going to sing?
Good.
What key should they be in?
Oh, keys, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one, right?
Because quite often, like, I'm trying to sing and they've changed it for the lead vocalist's pitch to make her or him sound perfect. And then I can't even sing because I'm male and it's way out of my range. And it's like, do I sing down here? Like, all that sort of thing, you know? And then you're focused on what notes do I sing?
I actually made a little flow chart. You guys know what a flow chart is? You know, like choose this choice, A or B, go here. And there's like little boxes with a little tiny sentence or phrase inside them. I made a flow chart about key choice.
Yep.
And maybe we should post it to the Facebook page. What's the Facebook page?
Just Ministry Down Under. So facebook.com/Ministry Down Under.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
So by the time you're listening to this, there'll be a post with that flow chart there. And this is because here's the thing, you know, it becomes not about my vocal performance. You know, it becomes about me wanting to invite as many people as possible. And this key choice one is really, really a contentious issue, believe it or not. Like if you go to some of the Facebook pages or YouTube things that are about this, people are divided on this.
Yeah.
And I would not want to suggest that professional recording artists, touring recording artists who are presenting songs to the church that are suitable for the worship of God by a congregation, that they're doing it wrong. No, I don't know if you guys know Phil Wickham, you know, but he's had some big hits. And it's almost awkward to say hits, but they are hits, you know. This Is Amazing Grace was a few years back. What's the latest one? Oh gosh, got a mental blank. It's in my repertoire, but anyway. So he's got an amazing high tenor voice, right?
Yeah.
When he sings at his, and I'm going to use the word, his concerts, and I've been to them, you know, like I went to a conference and he was singing at it. I don't want him to sing it in my key. I want him to sing it in his key, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Go for it, man. And understand people who are actually there at the Hillsong event or at the Phil Wickham event, they are people who are generally very passionate about the worship of God through songs.
Yeah.
And they will engage with almost because Phil Wickham is singing it in his register, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Sounds so amazing at that high tone for him.
Yeah.
But if I then
uniqueness,
try to copy Phil Wickham, and this is usually the choice of people in our local churches, well, I can't sing This Is Amazing Grace in B flat, but I can sing it in G, you know?
Yeah.
And so that usually a male who has shifted it as little as he has to sing it so he feels like his voice is as close to Phil Wickham's as possible. And it's not often in the front of his head he's thinking that. He's just like, where can I sing it? Where can I sing it and feel good about my voice? But I've developed a flow chart, like I've said, and a way of thinking about key choice where it's like, you know what I found? I need to sing these songs a lot lower than I really want to. So that the females and children can sing in an octave above me. And even Joe the plumber will think, all right, I'll give it a go. You know? And that's where the higher joy comes in. I would prefer to sing This Is Amazing Grace in the key of G. If I was a singer-songwriter, if I was performing for an audience, if I wanted them to really like the sound of my voice. That's kind of the sweet spot for me for that song.
Is that because your name's Grant? You like G?
And you know God's favorite chord, don't you?
Yeah.
No, we're not even going to go there. But I have found that E, the key of E, and this is, understand, still working
Yep.
B flat, A, G sharp, G, F sharp, F, E. I have shifted that song a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a small musical sadness that has to happen for me to do that song in E. Oh, it doesn't feel like it's the exciting register of my voice.
Yep.
Oh, it feels lower and less exciting. But when you hear a congregation sing it,
Yep.
all that is worth it. Those small
Yep, yep.
musical sadnesses that we have to absorb are well worth it because of the payback of our church congregation singing with some volume, with some passion.
Yeah.
And I want people to have the experience that many of us enjoy. Music has a particular way, I think, of almost like thinning the barrier between heaven and earth, thinning the barrier between humanity and divinity. There's something that happens for many of us, maybe not all of us, when just focusing on God and singing this worshipful lyric, especially when I'm around brothers and sisters who are doing the same.
Yeah.
Something beautiful happens there.
Mm.
And the Bible doesn't ask us to listen to someone sing songs great. He asks us to sing together. The Bible asks us to sing together. So that's when those deeper experiences of God's love for us and His grace and those things, at least in my experience, they happen when I'm singing with a bunch of other people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's most likely to happen when I choose a key where every man, woman, and child, or as close to that as possible, are able to sing it.
Yep.
And what's modeled to us by the Phil Wilkins of this world is something very different. And I celebrate what they're doing. They're not wrong to sing it that way. But we just need to be prepared to make the modification when we get to our local church
Yep.
with the people in front of us.
Yeah. Not everyone can sing that high. So.
Right, and my experience for that, some of you might be a little bit aware of this, and some of us not. But I used to be in a band called the Paul Coleman Trio, built around our lead singer Paul Coleman. We had that interview just recently with the other guys from PC3.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed some success in Australia and other places in the world where we were delivering songs from the stage and on our CDs. Remember CDs? Remember those?
Oh wow! Yeah.
That were primarily for people to listen to them. These are songs for you to listen to. And if you're a huge fan of ours, you might know the chorus and sing along with us. Maybe.
Or a serious fan. Yeah.
But we wouldn't be putting the words, the serious fans, you can sing along. But we're still recognizing that we are presenting songs and performing them for you.
Yep.
Now, we in the trio, we might not have used this language at the time, but we really felt like what we were doing was pointing people towards the value of God, right? Pointing people towards the worth of God. And I think that's what worship at its most basic means. To worship God means to show the worth of God.
Yes.
The word used to be said, worship. It was only ever a verb. It wasn't an adjective originally. It wasn't a noun even. It was just a verb. So I am a big fan of presenting songs to a group of people that are performance. Even in a Sunday service, I think there's a place for that. I actually think that there's not enough people who are sincere followers of Jesus making music like that right now. Listen to this. Because when you have a listen to us song, you can have more complicated, deeper poetry. You can push boundaries of, the sort of thing. You can't write the sort of songs that Paul Coleman writes that deeply move people and have them reassess how they are valuing God, and have it also be congregation friendly for everyone to sing and have simple words on the screen. Simpler words. So I believe that what we did in the Paul Coleman Trio was worshipful to God, and it was mixed with some idolatry. Let's be honest. None of us have arrived, But we hoped that it was worshipful to God and pointed people towards the value of God. So in that sense, even though these songs were performance-y songs, they were worship songs, quote unquote, right? And then I joined Sonic Flood. And maybe people don't remember Sonic Flood, but Sonic Flood were a hugely successful band before I joined. And
Oh, come on.
but now Sonic Flood is a band that's known as a quote unquote worship band, singing worship songs, giving people a worship experience. And the words are on the screens, and almost all of them are you, God, God, you, praising God and prayers to God. Almost all of them.
Yeah.
And so I found myself with this experience and this experience.
Mm-hmm.
This experience with the Paul Coleman Trio, where it wasn't thought of as being worship, if you listen to the way Christians use the word, and this band that was considered worship, if you listen to the way Christians use the word. And I just went, I think we're misusing the word worship.
Yeah.
The difference here is that these songs are please listen to us, and these songs are please sing with us.
Yeah.
And so that created this clarity for me, oh, okay. There's some idolatry mixed with both of these. There's some worshipfulness mixed with both of these. Our hearts are not pure, but we sincerely want people to be pointed towards the worth of God in both situations.
Mm-hmm.
The confusion happens when you've got people on the platform and they don't know which they're doing.
Yep.
They don't know whether they're listen to me or they're sing this. And you will make one set of musical choices if it's sing with me, and a different set of choices if it's listen to us.
Yep.
And that's the confusion. And so I see it over and over and over again. I do these workshops for church music teams, or go to conferences where a lot of teams have come together.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, what I want to do more of in Australia. I did it for 12 years in America, and over in New Zealand doing it here now. And we'd love to come to, after the COVID-19 thing, we're flying again. I'd love to come over and help some churches just have this clarity, because it just makes everything so much easier.
Yeah.
I think
if you've got people in your team who are capable of listen to this, check this out. Give them a platform for that. Go at it. Do it to the glory of God. Knowing that it's not pure. It's okay. Do it to the glory of God, but don't confuse your congregation about whether they should be listening or whether they should be singing. Make it really clear. That's all.
Yeah, because I think, one of the things, like, as I've been on both sides, the musical side and the technical side, I guess, of the platform divide, and you get sometimes you have two different views of what everything should be, and like what's
only two?
Well, two clear versions of what should be going on, and how do you? You were talking about, like, if you got that unity, that brings that together. But how do you start to kind of work that together? Is there any?
Well, as I said before, there's this conversation, and I talked about the World Cup and the World Cup in soccer, and also we want to get a ball in the back of the net. So we've got to get that agreement. The mix engineer, the senior pastor, the person who's projecting the lyrics, the drummer, the singers, everyone, we've got to be like, great, let's agree on that.
Yep.
And if we've got disagreement already from there, then I would be suggesting that maybe we should be trying to put on a concert together then,
Okay,
there's something different we should be doing. But if we are, but I've actually never had that. The way I've found to talk about it, I've always said, all right, so are we on the same page with that? Great. And then I've got to move to, all right, even if it's just for this weekend or just for this workshop time, and my workshops can be a couple of hours, or they can be, Friday through the end of Sunday, like a full weekend thing. Just while I'm here as a guest, your senior pastor, rightly or wrongly, I'm claiming to have some sort of expertise in what it means to get a congregation singing. Will you at least try what I'm going to suggest for this time together? You can ditch it after I'm gone if you want, but will you try it? So we're going to agree that the musical, technical goal is to get the congregation singing. Yes, everyone, yes, good. I'm the leader. Can we agree with that? Yes, great. Doesn't mean your opinion won't be heard, but we're going to try what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, without a Gordon Ramsay kind of smash and bash.
No, we don't want that, because I don't want to have a conversation with a drummer saying, I don't like that drum beat, or you're playing too many drum fills, or you're hitting the drums too hard. I don't want to have those conversations. They're kind of pointless if he or she and I don't agree. But I can say, now just pause there for a moment, mate. That big drum fill, that actually cut across the rhythm of the singing. do you really think that's making it easier for the congregation to sing, or maybe tougher? Have a listen to it again, the way you played it. Now let's have a listen to it again with you playing just a straight drum beat through it.
Yep.
Three singers who are in the band with microphones. Was that easier when he played it simply? Yeah, it was so much better. Champion. Let's keep it like that, shall we? Because our singers found it easier, so the congregation will.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Because he's already agreed to the goal, you know?
Yeah.
So we move from the big whys to the what and the hows.
Yep.
And, you know, I can step out but stand behind the mixing console. And by the way, I don't like doing this. I usually love to work with a pro audio tech or audio video tech, actually, when I do these workshops. Not always possible, but it's by far better that way. But, man, it's sounding great in here, but it feels so loud, like an AC/DC concert, man. Do you think like slightly tentative people in the congregation are going to sing when it's this loud? If they can't hear their voice from here to here, do you think they're going to sing? Yeah, probably not. Yeah, hey, gee, let's find you another chance to mix a hard rockin' band somewhere else. But on Sunday morning, we're going to need to have a sound so that people in our pews or in our seats, they can hear the row behind them singing. They can hear the person left and right of them singing. So we've got to find that volume and bring it to where it meets the congregation where they're at. And we might be able to work them up over weeks and months to get them singing a little louder. But this coming Sunday, we've got to meet them where they're at. And I bet that's going to be pretty soft, especially since we're a congregation of 102. You know, so at least then it's moving to a workshop slash band rehearsal tech sound check time where I'm the boss and I have a series of those conversations and craft a sound that I believe will engage the congregation. And even at that point, you might have some people going, I don't like playing drums like this, you know, I don't like singing in this key, I don't like mixing this way, it's not really scratching my itches, you know. But I've found that most people, when the congregation is there and everyone feels like, wow, they sang so much better than they usually do, and the pastor's got a smile on his face because his congregation was more engaged and it sounded cleaner and more inviting and warmer, and that's that taste of the higher joy that makes all the small musical sadnesses I've asked people to absorb worthwhile. You know, so, you know, when I do these workshops, sometimes it's a couple of hours on a Tuesday night for rehearsal, and then I'm sort of not there for the Sunday for them to taste that higher joy. And maybe we didn't get enough done in the 2 hours anyway, depends on where they're at. But that's what convinces. It's not because Grant Northsworthy, you know, with all of his experience, came in and told a story and convinced us to do it that way. It's when they go, oh, it's not about me. It's actually about me being a small contributor to something way bigger than I am. A group of people connecting more deeply with God through songs. That's where it's at, you know.
And I
was going to say, what about other elements? Because at the moment, the focus is very much on rock bands. And what if there's people in a congregation that want to play, I don't know, flute, trumpet, all the instruments that don't fit in that cliche of, I don't know, current Christian contemporary kind of rock. What do you do there? Like, how do you include them?
Or that kid who's dropping beats on his laptop, you know.
Or beatboxes or whatever.
You've got to find ways of including people. You know, my strength is the drums, bass, electric guitar, keyboard, few singers sort of thing. But you know, hey, maybe I will share a video in this program. You know, I actually did a thing where I got a cellist who just really good cellist. But you got to imagine some musicians talk the language of reading notation only. And that's where they stop. And some musicians are like, play by ear, play by feel, listen to the recording, work it out, maybe look at a chord chart. And so it it creates some challenges for whoever's leading that team, but I
Yep.
think it's really important that you find ways of incorporating whoever's available.
Yeah.
And that's another joy for me. And I
Yep.
guess not everyone has that skill, but you know,
Mm.
yeah, we've got to find ways of incorporating what we've got. So I've got some of my chord charts, like I'm not a real notation reading person, even though I played brass bands and classical piano as a kid. But even as a professional musician in Nashville, Tennessee, I could count on one hand the number of times I was asked to read notation in all those years. It's usually, what do you got, man? Play what you feel. Listen.
Yeah.
And you've got some theoretical knowledge to lean on, but you're actually...
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not a right and a wrong way with that particular argument. But if you've got someone who only wants to read notation, then we better write them out some notation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I did a thing like, you know, that example of This Is Amazing Grace. There's a couple of really cool lines in the original recording that are a synthesizer. But if I've got a sax player, and I did this not long ago in Ohio, I think it was, no, North Carolina, young 16-year-old sax player, I play sax. Can you play by ear? No, I only read. All right. Well, there's this line. Da 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 ba da da ba da ba ba. Let's work it out together. All right. You have to write a stave, write it out for yourself. I'll help you work out on the piano what it is and tell you the name of the note.
Yep.
You've got to write it for yourself. And then in the chorus, there's another line. Ba 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 ba. All right. Let's write that out. Yeah.
Yep.
And what often happens, you have a flautist or a bagpipe player or whatever, and they're in the team with a drummer and a bass guitar, electric guitar. They just play constantly.
Yeah.
And you end up with this cacophony. It just doesn't really work.
Just
noise. Notation readers are used to having the benefit of a professional arranger.
Yeah.
And ear players are becoming arrangers themselves as well.
Yep.
So you've got to try and meet in the middle. But the idea is that sax player, I don't want you playing during the verses. Sing off mic with us. Who breaks the power of sin and darkness? You know, here comes your chorus. This is amazing. Ba, 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 ba. And he just feels like a champ, you know, like he's nailed it. And then he's won. And then you can say, you don't really need to be looking at that, do you? It's pretty simple. Commit it to memory by Sunday.
Yeah.
All right, I'm in, you know.
Challenge on.
There's things you can do to really help that happen. But it takes a stronger sort of leadership than what I usually see.
Yep.
And, you know, a lot of the people who are leading volunteer teams in churches, their attitude often seems to be, oh, I can't ask too much of them. They're volunteers. What if they don't want to work that hard for this?
Yeah.
And I just don't go with that. You know, like my approach is, people get excited about music when it's good.
Yeah.
You know, when it's achieving its ball in the back of the net goal.
Yeah.
And if they get a taste that we're going to have to actually prepare these songs personally before we show up to rehearsal now. I have to listen to actually what that drum beat is in that original recording. And I won't be able to play all of that choppy stuff, but I can certainly lay down a groove that's similar to that. You know, I hear a keyboard line, I'm going to learn it on my sax and write out that part for myself because I bet that I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
You know, come to the rehearsal. Don't be going, all right, what are we going to play? Like, like 2 hours, 1 hour, 5 hours to prepare that song. And I'm ready to go because I've tasted this higher joy, you know? And that's not what only has people do their homework and bring their A game. It's the thing that has new volunteers go, I've heard they've got a good band at that church. Can I play? You know?
Exactly.
You know, and it actually takes that leadership that does, not with a whip, not with a growl, but this music stuff is really important.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to show by my level of preparation and excitedness and dedication to it that it's worth it. It makes a difference. But the thing that kills that attention to detail, that bringing your A game, that work ethic is we don't really know what we're doing here. Someone told me that we've got to make music that worships God, but I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or I do know what that means. It means that I have to get that ecstatic feeling. You know, it becomes too difficult. You say to a team of volunteers that might include a 62-year-old lady playing piano and a 14-year-old kid trying to play bass guitar, and everything in between. Make sure your heart is right, and let's worship God.
Yeah.
It actually means almost nothing.
Yeah.
It should mean a lot, and it does mean a lot if we've spoken about what some of those terms mean.
Yes.
But it can absolutely crush people with knowing, well, how does that change what I play? What does that mean? It ends up meaning, well, I'll just play as best I can, whatever I think's right, and get by with as little personal effort as possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I bump into all the time. People who love God, love the church, good hearts. I mean, good hearts. You know what I mean? None of us have got good hearts, but but not well led, and no real sense of what we're actually trying to achieve with this music stuff.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think over the years playing different instruments, like since my 30s I played percussion, so it's like the teams that I've really felt that connected with the audience, they're the ones I've enjoyed the most, and it's almost like you don't mind practicing because the payoff is people connecting with God on Sunday.
Yeah, and you notice that. Yeah, you notice the teams that do connect with each other, and their aim really comes over to the congregation, and when you get mature aged like us, you can kind of pick it up. When you're visiting a church, you think, something doesn't feel right here, or
we might not be able to say it or think it in the front of our brain, but there's this invisible tension of people tugging in different directions, rather than in one direction, and that flow of unity that excites people about World Cup soccer. We can, our version of that, flowing from the mix console or the iPad to the people on the platform, sweeping up the congregation in this. We know what we're here for. We know what we're shooting for. We know what we want to do.
Yeah.
And we've worked hard to prepare something that helps facilitate that. It makes a massive difference in the life of the church. And I maintain this, like a church congregation that is singing well together, prayers to God, praises of God, declarations of truth about God. That is a thriving church. That is a church that is probably growing. And no one is like, oh, I guess we're doing this music stuff again. I guess we're doing this because we do it every week. That's
it.
And that's very important for now, because now we're all online without worship. I know some people just go to other churches to watch their worship because, they said it comes across like not so much boring, but it feels flat. They just said the feeling that comes across online is just, they just feel flat, and it's not motivation. They've got no motivation to stay there to watch their own service. So I'd rather go to someone else's worship service on a Sunday.
And I don't know if you guys have heard of this verb, musicking. As an author, I think his last name is Small, a New Zealander who's not alive anymore, but he wrote a book called Musicking, and it's got a subtitle that I forget right now, but Chris is fast, he might find out for us. But
just to Google
music is actually best thought of as being a verb rather than a noun. Rather than music being a thing, it's an activity, or it's a journey, it's a process. It's the thing that you do, and the experience of musicking is different if you're a listener than if you're performing. It's different on headphones than it is in a live situation. And so musicking, when we've got our church congregation and a team of people who are friends of ours, or we know them at least, leading us to music towards God, is a certain experience, but watching it on a screen during a COVID-19 lockdown, it loses a lot of its purpose.
Yep.
I'm hoping that as we come out of this COVID-19 thing, people will rediscover the joy of musicking together to God, led by people who are part of our church family, part of our congregation, you know. And people who are streaming their services, many of them are including music in that. And I've actually got a Dropbox link where I've got 6 of my songs with lyrics on the bottom.
Should I put that in the messages?
Yeah.
That link.
Stick it in there. You know, look, here's 6 songs that you can play, but not many people are going to sit at home on a Sunday morning watching a stream service and sing to their phone or their iPad or their laptop. Some will. My family does. I'm pleased to say.
We do.
But I kind of like, hey, you know, God's still the audience here. Let's sing, guys. You know.
Yeah.
Or on the TV with the surround sound on.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
But you know what you touched on then, Karen, I think is a symptom of part of the confusion. You know, why would I watch my team of musicians in their clunky effort when I can actually have a look at Hillsong streaming their incredible production with amazing musicians?
There are some musicians that are just 2 people and a guitar, acoustic.
Right.
And
so we've got to realize this musicking is different, you know.
Yeah.
If you are here to be music to as a observer, then you better get the best example to be music from that you can find, you know. But if your voice is actually an imperative and you're actually not here to observe, but you're actually here to participate, then hopefully that creates a totally different way of us musicking and the agenda there. And I think we'll actually find that highest joy of musicking is most potent when we are joining our people we're in relationship with as we sing these praises of God together. That's where it's at. You know, can I be honest? Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't listen to Bethel and Hillsong and Phil Wickham and Elevation for enjoyment. No way. Same 4 chords over and over again. You know? Like,
I think on Babylon B, they introduced
like people who listen to a lot of The Edge from U2 playing guitar. But I love singing these songs.
Yes.
I love leading other people to sing these songs because that's when its musicking takes shape. You know, that's when it becomes what it's supposed to be. But if I'm looking for my musical nerve to be massaged the way I like it, I'm not going to listen to that music. It's really, really good in its sort of spacious, anthemic. Start really small. Let's build it up, and let's build up. Let's get really small again, and make people get excited about God. And you know, I as a person who's been involved in music professionally, I read all the rules they're sticking to, you know, and it all makes sense. And I think they're doing it with really good motivation. But it doesn't make sense to me as a listening experience music. Especially if it's being played by 3 volunteers at a little church in Bordertown, South Australia. You know? Like, this is not the music to be listened to. It's the music to sing with those 3 people in Bordertown. And as a sincere prayer to God. That's what this is about. Or a reminder of some truth about God. Or as an encouragement to other people to consider this more deeply about Jesus. That's when these songs are being musicked in their correct context.
That's it. That's it.
No, that's good.
All right. Well, I think that's rounded out the hour quite nicely. And I'd like to thank Grant for coming on today.
And pastors, get in contact with him, book him. Because I can imagine he'll be booked out like that as soon as this virus is over.
That's it.
Well, we've got to make sure there's planes that fly from New Zealand to Australia yet. But
you can swim.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy to speak to any pastor. Please send me an email, info
Yes.
at grantnorthsworthy.com. Go to the website, grantnorthsworthy.com or morethanmusicmentor.com, kind of the
Yeah.
one website
Yeah.
within another. Because,
Yep.
you know, I'm a speaker. I love to preach. I love to be at special events and conferences and even do concerts. You know,
Yep.
I don't
Cool.
really do concerts anymore. I do what I call a night of praise, which is
Oh, that
a
sounds
blend of
great.
storytelling and songs for people to listen to and songs that are for people to sing along with and some songs that do a bit of both.
Nice.
And I even sometimes tried out an old Paul Coleman Trio song or an old Sonic Flood song. But yeah, I'd love to get in with your team of musicians, the singers,
Yes.
the instrumentalists and technicians and help bring some clarity there. Because I want the church to come back stronger after this lockdown, you know,
Yeah.
after this COVID-19 thing, where we've had to be separate from each other and speak and looking at a screen.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's take a good hard look at what we've been doing that was working well and keep that.
Yep.
Let's
That's
really
good.
assess what has been questionable, but let's not go back to just what we used to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know, hey, Pastor, if you're listening to this and you want to speak to me, send that email, give me a phone call, whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Email me, Facebook message me. But there are a bunch of free articles and training videos at morethanmusicmentor.com and my YouTube channel. Start
Yeah.
sharing them out. You can find that thing about the World Cup soccer as an article. In fact, maybe we'll put it on the Facebook post, eh?
Yep.
Sounds
There's
good.
an article I've written about, you know, the big questions of why we're doing this and what are we actually shooting for.
Yeah.
Share with them a few articles, see if they get excited about it. And then when you say, hey, why don't we bring Grant Northsworthy over here for a workshop weekend, then they might be more happy about it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Cool.
That'd
All right
be
then.
fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks again, Grant, and we look forward to seeing more of you in Melbourne and all over Australia in the near future.
Yeah.
Love to. Thanks a lot, guys. Good to talk to you.
All right. Bye for now.
Thanks, Grant. See you.
Bye.
See you, Karen.
Bye, Chris.